Good morning, and welcome to the special meeting of the Richmond Redevelopment Commission of Wednesday, May the 28th, 2025. We have a couple of items on the agenda today. First of all, we would like to call the roll.
Michael Bloom, Jenny Lahman, Kathy Lucid,
Here.
Nicole Stoltz,
Present.
Gary Turner,
Here.
Allison Zeidel. 4 present with a quorum.
Thank you very much. We have no minutes to review, but we do have financials.
Yes, so today, as you recall, every year annually, we work with Baker Tilly to review our financials and determine whether we have excess assessed value for the 25 taxes payable 26 that we can pass through to the overlapping tax districts. After their review of the financials and looking at our 5-year look ahead with potential projects that are on the horizon for the commission, it was the recommendation that we not pass any, that we do not have excess assessed value that can be passed through. We do have to notify all of the overlapping tax districts of that decision, and we have letters that we are required to mail out by June 1st, notifying them of that decision. So we would need a motion from the commission not to determine that we do not have any excess assessed value for 25 taxes payable 26.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Would you please call the vote? And before you do that, I will note that Allison has joined us.
I apologize. Thank you very much.
Jenny Lahman,
Aye.
Kathy Lucid,
Aye.
Gary Turner,
Aye.
Allison Zeidel.
Aye.
4 in favor.
Thank you very much. And I will sign those letters at the conclusion of this meeting.
Thank you.
We have no old business, but we do have new business. We have Resolution 8-2025, a resolution approving the Economic Development Agreement for the redevelopment of historic buildings, which we have known as Project Phoenix in the past. And would you like to do an introduction to that, Beth?
Sure. So with us today, we have John Anderson representing AP Development, and he will be making a presentation to the commission with an overview of this project and the work that they anticipate completing as part of this project. As you'll recall from our previous meeting in May, at our regular meeting, Dakota Collins, Director of Community Development for Earlham College, provided the commission with an overview of Revitalize Richmond and that overall initiative, which Project Phoenix is one of those projects under that overall initiative. So the resolution that we have before us today has us approving an economic development agreement which outlines the parameters that the commission and the developer will follow as this project moves forward. So at this time, I will invite John forward to present and then answer any questions that the commission has.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank you for the special meeting. My daughters appreciate it. I'm in Boston. I know you had before you all the material, so I didn't bring a PowerPoint or anything. We've been working on this project for quite a while, I think about 1.5 years now, steadily with the city and with Earlham and with the EDC. This is the redevelopment of a significant part of the block between 8th and 9th Streets. It's all 3 Nolenberg buildings, both Hiddle buildings, the bank, the Harris Bank, the Cheese Grater building, Jenkins next to it, and all 3 Oddfellows buildings. In addition to that, we're acquiring the Trustees building that's in the alley. That is the only thing we will demolish to create windows and outdoor seating in the alley for the bakery that's there. Oddfellows has already been acquired, and we have worked through that transition with Richmond Neighborhood Restoration with R&R. All those tenants are thrilled. We've worked with them. There are some second floor tenants that will be moving, but we'll be in constant communication with the tenants as to how we get them on Main Street. That's our goal. All the commercial retail on Main Street, residential on the side streets and upstairs. Approximately 100 apartments. Unfortunately, old buildings are very inefficient. So we're working to get that unit count up a bit, about 20,000 square feet in retail. They're all listed on the National Register. They will all be restored to national park standards. Even if we aren't able to use, we'll see about the cheese grater, because national parks might say that that facade is historic, but we're not going to keep it. So we'll fight that battle if anybody is still in the office at National Parks in a month. But all the facades will be restored as original. There are some things, I know there were parapets and gargoyles and those types of things on Nolenberg that have been removed that we won't be able to replicate, but what's there will be brought back as it was original, as near as we can figure from the photos we have. We were asked for renderings, and as I always say, the renderings are the historic photos and the postcards, because that's how we bring this back. A little bit about AP development. I'm a tax credit finance real estate attorney, been doing this about 30 years, started my own law firm in AP development about 15 years ago. And we have now done this type of project around the state. Backstay Lofts in Union City is our project. Beautiful restoration of an old factory is affordable housing. The YMCA in Evansville, which we are now doing phase 2, which is turning the old high school gymnasium into apartments, which is going to be interesting. The Ben-Hur in Crawfordsville, our grand opening is June 20th. I think you all got invitations to that. Another building that was entirely vacant for 20 years and mostly vacant for 40. And we've brought that one back to life. We're working on the Fairbanks in Springfield, Ohio, and a few others. We do some new construction, but it's always infill. It's always neighborhood infill where something once was, either a factory, a grocery store, or something that we come back in and build something that fits in the neighborhood and name it after what was there and try to build it to a higher standard than some other projects. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
For the record, you're located where?
Everywhere. So I live in Franklin. Our office
Indiana.
is in Brownsburg, Indiana. Yeah. So we are Indiana-based, and all but 2 of our projects are in Indiana.
I think one of the components the public would be interested in knowing about, we heard a little bit about, but the building that is going to be demolished, could you talk about that a little bit?
It's just the little shotgun building. I forget what it's called.
Grassroots.
In the alley. And I love that Richmond at one point was so bustling that they built buildings in the alley. So I live in Franklin, and if you ever go to Franklin, the alleys are energized, right? They're all lighted, names, themes, the whole bit. I know whenever my daughter's a Ball State architecture student, and every time Ball State does one of their studies, they're big on alleys, right? And I think you guys had one of those done some years ago. That's not a historic building. It's not a significant building. We're actually going to use it as our construction trailer. So it saves us having a trailer sitting around downtown somewhere. And then when we get to the end, we're going to take whatever we can from that building that we can reuse and tear that down so that we can then open those windows back up on Nolenberg, on the alley, and then energize the alley. My hope is the bakery stays exactly where they are, and we can create some outdoor seating in the alley for the bakery.
I just wanted to give you the opportunity to cast the vision so that the public is hearing that this is not a bad thing.
Yeah, and what's neat is the alley behind Nolenberg is actually a really nice, cool, urban alley. The backside of Nolenberg is brick and beautiful, and so reconnecting the alleys just creates a different feel in your downtown, right? If people feel safe to walk through a lighted, arts alley to get to Main Street, that's what we're going for.
Great.
Can you review for us how this project is being financed?
Yeah, so it's about a $30 million project. We will use historic tax credits. As I said, if we can't use them on the bank, then we can't, but that's a smaller portion of the project. Earlham and the CCC grant is obviously a big part of our financing. The balance is going to come from our private financing. And so we will take out a construction and permanent loan, which I will personally guarantee, and AP Development will personally guarantee for the balance.
Beth, can you speak to the TIF implications?
Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot the TIF, the most important part. Yes, so there will be a project-based TIF on this and I missed it because we roll it into our construction and permanent financing. We buy the TIF bond rather than sell it to a third party, so we control it. And then the property tax revenue comes back to us so that we can then have a higher construction and perm loan from the TIF pledge.
So after After we complete the process that we're going through today to approve this resolution, then we will begin the process of carving out the TIF area. The new TIF area will be downtown allocation area number 3, and it will consist just of the footprints of the buildings that are included in this project. We will go through that process with the Plan Commission and with City Council. We will also, at that time, on a parallel track, begin the process with Baker Tilly and Ice Miller to issue the bonds. So we will go through that bond approval process on a parallel track as well. The plan is that those bonds, according to our economic development agreement, will be closed on by the end of January 2026.
I will say, too, that while we've been working through the EDA, our architects have been working through the drawings. And so we have schematic design, meaning we have unit layouts where the bathroom and the kitchen and the living bed, all that is, on all the buildings except Oddfellows, since that was a late arriver, not for lack of trying. But so we have schematic design on that, but not to that level. And so I say all that to say we're pretty far down the path, ready to submit our Part 1 to SHPO and National Parks to get all these approved for the tax credits, and we should have complete construction designs, at least on the first 3 by this fall.
And all of the apartments that you're planning are market rate,
Market
correct?
rate. Yep, market rate.
And how long are you anticipating construction will take?
So this one will be interesting. In your mind, you have to think of it as one very large building. And so, you know, we have construction management in-house so we can control cost and quality. We've talked about this. What's going to happen, I think, is we're going to start it. First thing, we're going to get them cleaned out, get all the trash and junk out of them so they can breathe again. And then buildings adjust when you do that. We'll start with Hiddle and keep moving our way to the bank in Jenkins and do that with each of the trades, as opposed to do one building, then bring them back for another, then bring them back for another. That's going to be herky-jerky in the beginning, but once we get our cadence down, I would say 15 months, maybe a little longer as we finish the last building, just depending on what we find. The facades on these buildings are going to be expensive and a challenge and time-consuming because some very unfortunate things have been done to these facades. And we're going to do our best to bring them back, but that's going to be a big piece of what we're doing that the public is going to see.
Do you have in-house artisans that work on specialty stuff? such
We
as
actually
this?
do. It's a new thing that's happened in the last year because there were just things that weren't quite, we call them APD standards, they just weren't quite where I wanted them to be. And I also got tired of telling new people every time, save that, fix that, restore that, don't throw that away. And so we have our in-house construction manager, we have a procurement guy, we have a special projects, a couple of guys that will do things like replace the wood in an arched window bay, for instance. And then we also have a general contractor that works on all of our projects that has that kind of skilled labor as well. So if any of you are able to make it to the Ben-Hur open house, you'll see that. There were 17 layers of varnish and stain on the original woodwork, and we either took it all off or we replicated it. And so we have a woodworker in Jennings County, Indiana, that's a mill worker that replicates all of the wood for us. So just as an example, we have a iron guy that's replicating a railing from the Ben-Hur that was stolen at some point. So our bench on that keeps getting deeper, thankfully.
Okay. The commission has had the opportunity to review the financials in detail. Just for the record, we did meet in an executive session, so we had an opportunity to see many of the details of the project. There's a couple things I would like to make sure that we're on record with and that the public understands, that there's no upfront TIF money involved here, so that this is not going to influence in any way the amount that we have available in our TIF funds for future projects. And 100% of the TIF money that's going to be generated from these properties will be going to the developer.
And it's also not a general obligation bond of the city. Repayment of the bond is solely on us from the proceeds of the TIF.
Also, as it pertains to the TIF, in exec session, I had asked, as the representative for Richmond Community Schools, if any of those TIF monies will be allocated to RCS. The answer was that it was not at this point. How is that, I did think the public needs to know, though, how is that determined, if they are allocated or not?
So with this project, with the commission pledging 100% of those revenues to the project, there is nothing left over to pass on to other overlapping districts.
But if we understand correctly, there will be money that pays for the professional fees so that we will not be incurring expense for that. Correct?
Correct. AP Development, through the Economic Development Agreement, has agreed to a $10,000 per year payment to cover all of the professional fees associated with the management of this TIF area.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
I think, Jenny, did you have a question as well?
I did. It's going back to the timeline. There's many buildings, many projects here, and you said it's all basically one big giant project. Is your plan to work on these, like you said you were going to be starting, sounds like with the Hiddle, and moving this way, so there'll be commercial space and apartments available? If you get one building completed, are you planning on opening that up or opening all at the same time? And, I understand things may change, but what's your vision on that?
Yeah, so once we get to the end, Hiddle will be done first if we start first. And we do this because, for instance, there's a cadence to construction, right? You have to demo before you frame. You have to get all your mechanicals in before you drywall. You have to drywall before you paint. And we want all of those folks to come once, right? And so the drywallers will hopefully start at Hiddle and just stay until they're done. So Hiddle will be finished first, right? And then maybe 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later. So as the buildings are finished, we will get a C of O. There are a couple of elevators to deal with, which are always tricky. We know it's the elevator. We do everything we can to make sure it's not the elevator, and still it's always the elevator that holds us up at the end. I think they all have an elevator, actually. So that'll be something that we'll have to work through. But my guess, we'll have a building that will be finished sooner than the others, and that one will open. We are working with the second floor tenants at Oddfellows to make sure that we move them to a space, because that's going to be residential now. So we're already talking. Dan Beecher is Director of Project Management for APD, and he's already been over here several times meeting with tenants, walking through. Everybody wants to stay. We're excited for them to stay, and we'll work through it and move them as necessary so we're not disrupting them too much.
Okay. I also have another question. It sounds like you have a specialty crew that has worked with you on many projects.
Yep.
Are you anticipating using local labor?
Yes.
And can you speak to that?
Yes. We always use local labor where we can. It's a matter of having people that are skilled and available. And so if anybody has a contractor you would like for us to consider or talk to, please get them to us. Sometimes we find out about them when we're halfway through construction, right? Because we don't know they exist. But especially Bud on my team is always looking to use local labor where we can. We do have specialized folks that'll come over and do certain things, but in terms of HVAC, plumbing, electrical, these are all things that we try to hire local if we can.
Okay, thank you.
This is certainly a major step for downtown. We have seen these buildings vacant and deteriorating for a long time, and we're very optimistic that they can be restored and be a valuable part of the city. I think one of the questions, and again, for the general public, that has been raised is whether or not all of these apartments that we're looking at, about 100 apartments in this project and other projects that we have around the city for additional apartment living, whether or not we have that demand. And I believe we spoke to that in executive session, and I think that would be an important piece to add to this meeting so that the general public also understands that. And I would invite Mr. Mayor, Mayor Oler, to address that point if you would be so kind.
Thank you, Commission. Hopefully I can remember what I said earlier. So the difference is, there's a huge difference in these two set of apartments. So 6 and Main, or 6 Main, where Elder Behrman was, are luxury market rate apartments with amenities we've never had before in Richmond. And it's a different customer set than what we're going to have with these apartments. So these apartments are going to be great, beautiful, historic apartments, high ceilings, beautiful windows, but no real amenities. 6 Main is going to have so many amenities internal that you won't have to spend extra money. So includes your exercise room, includes a dog spa, bicycle storage, bicycle repair shop, community room, swimming pool, pretty much in a restaurant in a corner. So much is going to be at 6 Main. So the clients, the potential tenants for 6 Main are different from the others. There's already some people living downtown in upper floor apartments, and that kind of lifestyle is a different lifestyle than the others, so the price points will be different. So in what Flaherty and Collins to do with 6 and Main, they typically have been attracting young professionals, single people who don't feel safe elsewhere. They want something that feels safe and secure. But in recent years, they've been attracting empty nesters also. So at 6 Main, there'll be a mix. They're reporting nowadays they're getting about 40% of their tenants are empty nesters who are still working in this city, but possibly have a lake home or somewhere else they spend on the weekends. So they keep a residence here, and that's important. But what we'll see downtown, we'll see some long-term residents, and we'll see some really nice apartments too that we won't have at 6 Main. There's going to be some, I don't want to call them super luxury, there'll be some penthouse type apartments downtown. There'll be a few of those in some of these historic buildings that you won't get at 6 Main. 6 Main, you're not going to necessarily get a cookie cutter, but it kind of are. They all kind of look the same and feel the same. And what he does, you know, the equipment you'll have in your kitchen will probably be very similar, the stainless steel stove and whatnot, but every room is going to be different because some have transom windows above the door, some have historic woodwork and architecture, just a different feel and a different client, and I think they'll blend well together so that they're not competing against each other for occupants, I don't think.
Different feel when you're building
Different feel,
from scratch
yeah.
versus when you're
6
restoring.
Main has a huge parking lot, plus 6 Main's going to lease some spaces in a parking garage, and he's also going to lease some spaces in a parking garage. So all of them will have an opportunity to pay extra for covered spaces at the end. The way we deal this, though, is it 2 years, Beth? The first 2 years are free. So when we get a new apartment building downtown, typically, we award free off-street parking for 2 years and then you pay. So parking garage will be a premium because it's covered compared to some of the surface parking lots that we have. So people have options and opportunities. But all of them are also on the multimodal path. So picture young professionals. 6 Main has your bicycle storage area, your bicycle repair shop. You don't need a car. And you can bicycle or bus anywhere you want to go. And with other projects, we soon to be adding a new bus, so a new electric bus is coming too. Battery powered, not lines above the streets like an old trolley or anything, but something different. So just a lot of cool stuff happening. And all these apartments are within walking distance of 3 wonderful city parks: Elstro Plaza, Star Jeanette Park, Veterans Park, and all the stuff that's happening with the gorge activation, from canoeing, kayaking launch, fishing pier, bouldering wall, a boardwalk, eventually a zip line, and the mayor will be the second person on a zip line, not the first. Yes. But anyways, it's really cool. When I talk to other mayors, and we have mayor roundtables every month. I go every now and then, maybe every other one. And it was interesting because a mayor of a donut city in Indianapolis was getting apartment buildings built by this same group that's building these down here. And I said, what amenities do you have? And he said, well, you know, we've got a couple of retention ponds and a walking path. I'm like, you don't have a natural river within walking distance? No. You don't have 3 city parks within walking? He's like, his rents are 50% higher because his costs are 50% higher, but doesn't have any, internally the same amenities, but doesn't have the external amenities that we have here. So yeah, I made a mayor of a wealthier city of Indianapolis jealous of what we have right here in Richmond. That was a good day.
That's a very good day.
Yes. Does that help?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Does that help? Is there anything else you want to know? Anything else you can think of?
We brushed on the topic of, will these be filled? Who do you see in our community wanting those? You talked about empty nesters and young professionals, but is there I mean, I've read studies that there is a true need for housing and market rate.
Incredible
Can you
need
speak
for
to
market
that?
rate of housing. So we have every major employer in town talks to the mayor, talks locally, talks to their board. They have trouble attracting young professionals. They have trouble keeping young professionals for safe apartment style living. Most people, young professionals starting their career, they're not ready to buy a house in one of our subdivisions. They need to start in a safe apartment complex and then find out the community and eventually move and buy a house. So we're going to have this constant turnover. But the other thing is, we know from another apartment developer that only 3 out of every 10 applicants have a local address. 70% of their applicants are from out of the area. We know that 12,000 people work in Richmond, Wayne County who don't live here, and 8,000 commute every day from the housing study and work study. We know that for every 100 households that move here, generates another $1 million a year in other expenses, other investments. So between their car repair, groceries, going out to eat, and other stuff. So millions of dollars will come into the community. 6th and Main alone is what, $528 million gross domestic product when it's done from all the investment that'll happen in the city. So if we can get, our housing study says that Richmond and Wayne County can absorb 450 new units a year. This isn't even 450 units over 2 years. The other housing we're doing, we're not even catching up to what the housing demand says we have. So hopefully our largest employers will be able to say, yes, we have housing options again. And if you've been around my neighborhood, other neighborhood, houses are starting to sell again. People are starting to move and move up and move around, and that's the whole point of all this. So get a nice starter apartment or empty nester apartment, and then move on. One of the things we're doing in branding, if I can speak a little bit about our branding initiative, we're branding the whole city. One of the groups we're trying to attract and retain are the creatives. So Richmond has a long history in the arts. Our symphony orchestra is 68 years old, the second oldest symphony in Indiana, the art museum, all the music venues and stuff. So one of the groups we're trying to attract with our brand are the creatives. And in my mind, about 10 years ago, a decade ago, we listened to the city of Hamilton, what they did downtown, and attracting creatives to the apartments above the retail spaces. That's probably more what's going to move in there. Of course, creatives can live wherever they want, but I think, they're going to like that space and that feel more so than the professionals in the other apartment complex with all the amenities. Creatives may not want those amenities. They're going to go out and enjoy the parks. Other professionals may want the indoor amenities that come with that apartment complex. And still, that's not 450, all that combined, so we're still short.
Okay.
Lots of opportunities here. And when the governor was here 2 weeks ago now, we had a presentation, the governor, we talked about housing, we talked about everything going on, and I pointed out to him, and I think he understands, I think most of us understand, and now I think Indianapolis understands, we've got a competitor 2 miles away to the east. And somebody's going to build housing first and get all these people living, hopefully, in Richmond, Wayne County, not in Preble County. Mm-hmm. So we've got to keep rolling on this. Because if we slow down, we take our foot off the gas pedal, Preble County is going to accelerate theirs, and we're going to lose. And that's not great for us. It's good for our employers. They need people to live, but I would rather they live here. I think about those 8,000 people who commute here every day, and I look at the budget, and we're just starting to talk about the 2026 budget. I look at the 2026 budget, and I think about these 8,000 people commuting to work here. We provide police protection, fire protection. We provide parks. We provide roads and streets, and we get nothing from them. Their income tax goes back to where they live. Their property tax goes back to the house they own in another city, another town. 2,500 come from Marion County, 768 come from Hamilton County. They're driving a long ways because they want to, and they can't find housing that they like. So quality of place is hugely important, and I think we got a chance to win here. Richmond has a chance to win again, and I'm excited about our future. The next 3 or 4 years, sorry, Preble County, we're going to win this one.
Well, I think that definitely underscores the housing need that we have.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A couple more questions, I think, for Mr. Anderson.
If I could piggyback quickly off what the mayor said, a couple of examples. We have a 37-unit project in Huntington, which has Huntington University downtown. It's full with a wait list. When we opened, we had people from 18 to 94 living there. The demand is so high, our second floor was office space that we are now converting to 9 apartments that we are starting next week, and they're already leased. And so the demand for these kind of apartments is real. If we have 100 apartments, we will have 100 different apartments. In the Hiddle building, the 3rd floor is the old Masonic Lodge. Those will be lofted, so there will be loft bedrooms. In Nolenberg, where there's no windows on one side, those will be 2-story apartments. And so as I always tell people, the buildings tell you what you can do, you don't tell the building. And our amenity is downtown, and the parks, and the 20,000 square feet of retail. So we build all of those same amenities the mayor mentioned in our new construction, but this kind of rehab is a different animal. I couldn't find a place to put a pool.
Understandable.
Yes.
Have you acquired all the buildings now?
So R&R acquired Oddfellows, but we have a purchase agreement. We'll transfer that next week. We are closing on Nolenberg and Hiddle Friday, and we will close on Harris Bank next week. Purchase agreements on all of them, just waiting to get our agreements approved and executed so we can pull the trigger.
Very good.
John, when will we know about the cheese grater? I love the building, but I'd like
What
to
do you
see the
wanna know?
cheese, I'd like to see the cheese grater part go. When
Oh,
will
that
you
I can
know
tell you
about
now.
that? Okay.
That's coming off.
So you're just going to fight, as you said before, you'll fight that fight with?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of like crossing the Rubicon, though,
Mm-hmm.
right? Once we take it down, we got to restore it.
Yeah,
And
right.
Kevin Shook, who's become a good friend of ours in Richmond, he's a great guy. He flies that drone and got inside, and we
Mm-hmm.
have drone footage of the original building as it is now.
Great.
Gary, I need to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
They painted it with something.
Did that.
Yeah, I need some plans. They painted it with something, black. And I've done a lot of research. I thought maybe it was a limestone. There is limestone that naturally turns black.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's it. I think they actually threw something on there that we got to try to get off. So
Okay.
cheese grater is definitely coming
So it's
off.
just, that's, okay.
But
great.
once it's off, then we're going to assess and see where we are and what we have to restore to get it back. Yeah.
I think the other exciting part about all of these apartments in the downtown area is that it brings an opportunity for supporting services to also locate in the downtown area.
Absolutely.
So that the other buildings that might be vacant at this time have a chance to be filled.
The one space we don't, we have some good retail commercial tenants that want to stick with us, and that takes care of everything except the bank lobby in Harris Bank. We looked at ways to convert that to multiple spaces, and I just said no. So we're restoring that lobby as
Nice.
original, and then figure out from there what we do. My hope is it's a bourbon bar or a steak restaurant. Ben-Hur, we found the same thing. We created a new beautiful lobby in Ben-Hur, and there was supposed to be a wall there, and I decided I don't want a wall there, so I can get a 600 square foot retail tenant. So we're just going to open it up to the public to use for receptions and parties, and pay us a little something to cover our expenses, but rather than chop it up. So keep that in mind, that we're going to have this beautiful bank lobby that we need to fill with something awesome, and hopefully having all these residents downtown will attract a restaurant to do that.
So you referenced some of your commercial concepts. Could you speak to that so the public kind of knows what's possibly coming down the road?
Well, Oddfellows already has tenants, and those tenants will stay. The hobby shop, the sign, the music store. There are a couple of tenants in the second floor that we would like to move down to Main Street. We are going to have shallow retail, so the backside of Nolenberg, for instance, will be apartments. People don't need 5,000 square feet of retail anymore. They need 1,200 square feet. Same thing with Hiddle. So it's those 3 spots on Main Street. If you go down 9th Street, those will be very nice walk-up apartments. Park your car on the street, walk in to your apartment. As of now, the tenants we have should be able to fill those openings that we have on Main Street. If any of those don't work out, then we will keep looking. We want tenants that are going to activate downtown and be vibrant, right? And so we want foot traffic. We want shops that are open. We want that kind of thing downtown. And hopefully that'll keep happening with what R&R is doing and others to get that foot traffic.
And I think to add to that, if you recall during Dakota's presentation about Revitalize Richmond, they have contracted with Downtown Strategies for retail recruitment. So they're identifying that appropriate mix that John referred to and then actively recruiting those appropriate businesses to the available spaces that we have downtown.
Our hope is to elevate the retail downtown. So more boutiques, more candle shops, all of those things that people.
Well, all of this is creating synergy, and that is
Right.
attractive, so.
Yep.
As well as generating property tax income.
I think it's encouraging that you've been working with towns that are similar to our size. A lot of times we have projects that come in that there's just not apples to apples comparison, but we see Goshen and Crawfordsville and a lot of people that are similar to us. That gives me more faith in the idea of the project. Or some even smaller, yeah.
I'm a small town kid. I grew up
Yeah.
in Seymour. I have a history degree from Indiana State. Yeah, these are the towns we work in.
That's helpful.
Thank you. Any more questions from the commission? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, just for the record, what we have is before us is the Economic Development Agreement. And we've had the opportunity, again, in executive session to hear from our legal counsel as well as our financial counsel on all of the major articles contained within the agreement. So what we're doing here today is that we are looking at a resolution to accept this Economic Development Agreement. And Resolution Number 8, 2025, I'm going to read what it actually does so that we have record for the public again. And so bear with me, it's a little bit lengthy here on the back page, but it's basically this resolution says, now therefore be it resolved by the Richmond Redevelopment Commission that, number one, public purpose, the commission hereby finds and determines that promoting economic development in the area is a valid corporate and public purpose for which the commission may spend public funds. B, incentivizing the construction of the development in the area will increase the level and diversity of the tax base and enhance the commission's efforts for downtown revitalization, creating a vibrant, active community with a central business core, all of which are of public utility and benefit to the citizens of the area and the city. And C, bringing residents to the area will assist in stabilizing existing downtown businesses, promote new investment in the downtown central business core, and improve the overall quality of the downtown central business core. 2, the commission hereby approves the substantially final form of the project agreement, as I mentioned, presented to this meeting and attached hereto as Exhibit A. The President or Vice President of the Commission is hereby authorized to execute and deliver the same, and the Secretary is hereby authorized to attest and deliver the same, and to approve any changes in form or substance to the project agreement as determined necessary or appropriate by the City Attorney and Ice Miller LLP as special counsel. Such changes to be conclusively evidenced by execution of the project agreement. And number 3, this resolution shall be effective upon passage. So this is the first step in the process to move forward on this project. As Beth indicated, there will be further steps associated with carving out these buildings in a specific TIF area of their own. Do we have any other questions or comments?
Hearing none, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution Number 8, 2025. Would you call the vote, please?
Jenny Lauman,
Aye.
Kathy Lucid,
Aye.
Gary Turner,
Aye.
Allison Zeidel.
Aye.
4 in favor.
Excellent. Resolution Number 8, 2025 passes. Thank you very much. Appreciate the effort that the commission has put into doing due diligence on this project, and we wish John Anderson and his company all the luck in the world, and we look forward to this exciting project coming to Richmond soon. Thank you.
Thanks.
Do we have any other business to come before the commission today, Beth?
We do not.
Hearing no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you.